We must outsmart the liberals. We must outsmart the stupid people that are trying to ruin America. We outnumber the stupid people. Trust me. I counted them. I knew that we together could change Washington, D.C., even if your David didn't make it to the White House. So what I decided to do is create an army of Davids. One of the people that's running for United States Congress in the state of Ohio, in a very challenging district, has adopted 999, and I am endorsing his candidacy, is my friend Joe the Plumber. Stand up, Joe.
Joe the Plumber. Wow. Okay.
That was great stuff.
That was quite a party last night.
I know.
Yes. I met some interesting people.
It was great.
David.
At CPAC.
Yes.
Great night.
So you spoke at CPAC?
He was fantastic.
I introduced Paul Ryan.
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
Yeah. And MC
Paul Ryan, good friend. I've known Paul since 1994. He was a 23-year-old staffer. And we, of course, wanted to come and abolish 4 department agencies. Yeah. I can still remember all 4. So with us now, the moderator of Meet the Press, David Gregory, and also historian and Reagan biographer Craig Shirley, whose PR firm is doing work for Newt Gingrich. He's the author of Rendezvous with Destiny, Ronald Reagan and the Campaign That Changed America. Oh. And, of course, Chris Matthews is still with us.
Hello, Chris.
And you have the man of the hour, actually, on Meet the Press this weekend, Rick Santorum. I'll tell you, last night, the buzz was there in the crowd for Santorum.
Yeah, you've been talking about what a good set of issues he's working with right now, in addition to the fact that he's, I think, made a very effective campaign against Mitt Romney's credentials as being a true conservative. I think he's done that throughout at these debates. But, I spoke to a conservative activist who was at CPAC this week who said, a lot of these family issues that Santorum talks about, a lot of the social issues, everybody says that they're not an issue at all this year. We're talking about the economy, but they're always there for a lot of conservative voters. They're always on the back burner or on the front burner. But in this case, they have reared their head again on the contraceptive issue, which, by the way, Rick Santorum, other conservative leaders, they're making this about other things. A religious test, yes. This is much more about role of government. Right. This is much more about this is what happens when government makes your health care decisions. That's the argument they're making.
And that, Craig, is why this is such a dream issue for conservatives like myself, like Paul Ryan, that when we go out, when I went out, I never talked about abortion. I never talked about gay marriage. I talked about taxes. I talked about regulation. I talked about the relationship between the individual and the centralized state. Right. You ask me about abortion, I go, I'm pro-life. Let's talk about other things. Right. But this allows you to connect with the social conservatives while still doing it on your terms. This is about the state stepping into First Amendment issues. Yes. And that's why it's a sweet spot for conservatives.
Well, I think presidents get in trouble when they scare the voters, when they scare the American people, and I think this has potential to scare the American people. Carter got in trouble when he scared the American people because he seemed like he was out of control with the Malaise speech. I think that other presidents, obviously Richard Nixon, scared the American people, and I think that there's the potential for this issue because what he's doing, he's telling Catholics, don't be Catholics. And the Catholic Church is not a small institution in this country. It's a huge institution.
Well, you couple,
and if you're going after the Catholic Church, what won't you go after?
Right, but again, this feeds into a narrative, Chris Matthews, where conservatives talk about an overreaching federal government.
Yeah, but who's Santorum to do that? But remember the Shivo case? He wants to outlaw abortion.
Hey, Chris, hold on a second. Let me finish my point. Yeah. The second part of it is this case out in California where you have 2 federal judges, and I'm not talking about what's right and wrong. I'm talking about how it plays politically. Yeah. The same week you have Planned Parenthood, the same week you have the HHS decision exploding, you've got 2 federal judges in the Ninth Circuit telling 14 million people that their votes didn't matter. It all feeds into an
Sure, I think overreach is a big issue, and who's bullying us.
Right.
But the trouble is with a guy like Santorum, your hands aren't clean. Here's a guy who wants to federally, nationally outlaw abortion, the right of a woman to choose abortion.
Right.
Period.
Right.
He wants to just take away that decision-making, the most fundamental decision-making you can imagine. He wants to. Remember the Shivo case when he acted as the Senate chaplain, where 3 senators decided they were going to intervene in a family matter down in Florida. Santorum is an overreach guy himself.
Right.
He's very close to being a theocrat. Very close to being one. Yes, he does. He uses his religion to rule from his
conservatives like Eric Erickson, though, will call him a big government Republican.
I think libertarians have a good case here, but not Santorum.
There's cleavage inside. There's various factions inside the party and the movement, and that's one of the cleavages inside, even with the social conservatives, because there was a group of conservatives who were opposed to the getting involved in the Terry Schiavo case. There's also a group of conservatives that included Ronald Reagan, who said just overturn Roe v. Wade and send it back to the states for adjudication and let them decide. So it was a federalist position.
I think this idea, that the government is saying to Catholics, you can't be Catholic. One, I think that's a vast overstatement, given even the views within the Catholic Church and the use of contraception. But two, I actually think it's going to get beyond that issue. I really do think that the effective case to mount as conservatives, and you talked about where does Mitt Romney go with this, as I've just lowered my chair to the electrocution.
Why does that happen?
I don't know why.
Only you.
It just happened.
Greg, Shirley,
I have this thing with the chair. No, I have this thing with the chair.
Why is it about?
I don't know. It's his chair. I find myself I'm part of it's emasculating. It's just I don't know. But anyway, the point is that this could be a healthcare.
What say you?
This is an excess of the president's healthcare law argument.
Right.
That's where I think ultimately this goes, and I think that's where Mitt Romney can pick up the ball. And this is to your point about kind of political malpractice. Is this the fight they wanted to have in terms of defending the healthcare law? And after all, they reached out to so many Catholics, liberal Catholics in the church to get health care passed. So there is that sense of betrayal. Wait a minute, we were allies here.
I think they probably did not think the reaction was going to be that big because they see it as health care for women. And honestly, you really can't say that it's asking Catholics to not be Catholics because most Catholics use birth control. So let's not do that.
But it's asking the church to behave in a way that it hasn't.
But the church is behaving in this way.
No, not the church. Not the church.
Well, the men who run the church are not living that way.
Since the time of the Warren Court, we have heard about church and state, church and state, church and state. You couldn't put creches on public property. You have the 10 Commandments in public schools. So you couldn't go. Church couldn't impugn on the rights of the state. But now you have a case where the state is impugning on the rights of the church. It's got to work both ways.
I understand, and I actually have an interesting position on that. That's not what you would expect, but I will tell you that it's just sort of.
Your position is interesting, Mika, because you obviously are against this HHS.
No, I don't think religious institutions should be forced to do something that goes against the tenets of who they are. I just don't. It makes sense, but there should be an outside way in which everyone in this country can coexist, and I actually think the White House is trying to do that.
And Mike Barnicle, there's some reporting right now. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead, Mike Barnicle, jump in.
No. Finish what you were saying, Mika. I didn't know you were still going.
No, I was just finishing my point about the Catholics.
Well, finish it. So Mike Barnicle, I hate stepping on other people.
No.
Are you sedated? What's happening?
I know. A lot of tweets yesterday. Now I need to stop stepping on me. So Mike Barnicle, though. I'm sorry. The White House, I think, is going to resolve this thing, and I think they're going to resolve it pretty soon, which goes back again, though, to Mitt Romney. Republicans are going, and they're going to figure out how to do this. Where they are going to, as we were saying here, they're going to tie this back to Obamacare, as they call it. We warned you. The overreach of the federal government. When they get into your health care. Now they're getting into your pews. Next, they're going to be getting into your refrigerators. Next, they're going to be getting into your bedrooms. Again, it's a libertarian argument, one that Santorum can't make. They're going to tie that together. But don't you think the White House is going to figure this out sooner or later?
Well, I think the White House has certainly already sort of figured it out, and they're trying to work it out. And their chairs will go down just as David Gregory's chairs went down, because God will make their chairs go down unless they figure it out. Because here is where they don't want it to go, Joe. here is where they don't want it to go. It's already gone partially there, as you just explained. The Republicans are now going to make it a political argument about big government and Obamacare. But on the side of the Catholics in this country, who have had huge problems with the hierarchy of the church, the Obama administration doesn't want it to go here, where the church, the Catholic Church, under the HHS ruling, is just a building. And within the building, you get the exemption. Catholic charities outside the church, feeding the poor, part of the faith, part of being a Catholic, taking care of the poor, you don't get the exemption because you're not in the building that is the Catholic Church. They do not want this argument to go there.